Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we'll be discussing the root word called as love. So generally, philen, phile, philo or phil. These words will generally represent the word called as love. And this philen is originated from the Greek language. Now, let's look into one by one word. I said philanthropist. Now, what is this philanthropist? Generally, we'll be seeing in the newspapers and all. Now, if we decode this particular word, here it is phil. Phil is altogether love. Anthro. Anthro means mankind. For example, we have a subject called as anthropology. Now, what is this anthropology? So, anthropology is a subject where the evolution of human being and also the culture, the biological evolution, all these would be discussed in a subject called as anthropology. So whenever if you see a word called as anthro, the literal meaning would be altogether the mankind over there. Now here I said philanthropy. Now what is this phil? Love. Now philanthropist is a person who loves mankind. Now generally we'll be seeing in the newspapers, we see the heading as, for example, the philanthropist Bill Gates has donated $1 billion to Africa. For example, if you see that as a headline. Now, the philanthropist Bill Gates. Now, what is this philanthropist? Philanthropist is the person who loves mankind. A person, if he donates a huge amount of sum for the benefit of mankind, and that person can be generally considered as a philanthropist. Now, for example, in India, we have Azim Premji, Ratan Tata. Next, we have Sudha Murthy, Bill Gates, and all these people are generally the philanthropist over there. See the second word? So, bibliophile. Now, what is this bibliophile? So, generally, biblio, the literal meaning would be altogether books over here. And phile is altogether the love. So, love for the books. Love for books. If a person has fear of books, now what should we call him? For example, let's call him as bibliophobic. So bibliophobic is a person who really has fear of reading books or fear of books. That person we are generally calling him as bibliophobic, right? Next, philogynist. Now philo is altogether love over here and we have gynist. Now what is this gynist? Gynist is, before understanding this word, let's see gynecology. What is this gynecology now? Gynecology is the study of female reproductive organs, etc. Now I said gynecologist. Gynecologist. Who is a gynecologist? Gynecologist is a doctor who is well versed with the sexual organs and sexual related diseases of a female, can be generally the gynecologist. Now, for example, I said gynecium. Now, what is this gynecium? As far as gynecium is concerned, the gynecium can be the female reproductive part of a flower. Now, in all these words, we are seeing a common word that is altogether gyn. So, what is this gyn now? Gyn is something related to women. Now here we have philogynist. That means a person who loves women. A person who loves women can be generally the philogynist. Next we have astrophile. Now what is this astrophile? Astrology. Now what is this astrology? So astrology is study of the movement of stars. Study of the movement of stars. That means whenever if you come across a word called as astro, the literal meaning would be stars. Now here, phile means love over here. Now what is this astrophile? Astrophile is altogether love for the stars. Love for the stars over here. Next word, selenophile. Now what is the literal meaning of selenophile? What is seleno? Whenever if you come across the word called as seleno, the literal meaning would be moon. And phile can be altogether love over here. So let's make it as love for the moon. Love for the moon. For example, I said selenolatry. Selenolatry. So seleno is altogether moon over here. Now latry is altogether worship or praise. So worshipping the moon can be generally the selenolatry. For example, I said selenocentric. Selenocentric. Now what is this selenocentric? Centric means center. Seleno means moon over here. Now what is this selenocentric? Now considering moon as a center, that can be generally considered as the selenocentric over there. Okay. Now we will see the next set of words. The first one is philosophy. So generally phil is love and sophy. Whenever if you come across the word called as sophy, the literal meaning can be knowledge or wisdom. So philosophy is a subject where we will be studying about the wisdom. So it's altogether love for wisdom. Love for wisdom altogether. If you see next word, I said theosophy. For example, Theosophical Society of India. Now what is this theo? Whenever if you come across the word called as theo, the literal meaning would be God over here. Sophy is altogether the knowledge or wisdom. So that means theosophy is a person who has good knowledge on the religious, a particular religious text and all. So that person can be called as the theosophy. Next we have Philadelphia. Now what is this Philadelphia? Phil is altogether love. Now we have Adelph. Adelph is altogether brothers. Here, Philadelphia is love for the brothers. Love for brothers. For example, we have altogether Adelphogamy. So what is this Adelphogamy? So Adelpho means altogether brothers and altogether gamy. Now what is the literal meaning of gamy here? Gamy is altogether marriage. So Adelphogamy is very simply brothers marrying the same wife. If 2 or 3 brothers have single wife, then they can be called as Adelphogamy. That can be seen as a custom in certain traditions. Now, next we have the retrophile. What is this retrophile? So retro, we generally hear this word called as retro. Retro can be very simply the past. Phile is altogether love over here. Now, what is this retrophile? Love for the past. Love for the past. For example, certain people will be always interested to tell about their past and they will love that. Okay, that can be a retrophile person. We generally see retro bikes. Now, what are these retro bikes? For example, if any bike has been launched in 1960 or 1950 something, and if the same bike is today launched today, that will have a huge demand. Is it true? Yes, that can be the retro bikes. So retro is nothing but it's altogether the past over there. Now let's look into Anglophile. Now what is this Anglo? We generally see Anglo-Indians. So what is this Anglo? Anglo means the Englishmen. So Anglo means the Englishmen who are a part of the British. Now phile is altogether love over here. For example, I said Anglophile. Anglophile is love for the Englishman. Love for the Englishman. Next we have Caninophile. Now what are these Caninophile? So canino literal meaning can be altogether dogs. Phile is altogether love. Now this canino, instead of this canino, I can use even sino also. Sino also leads to the word called as dogs only. So sinophile or caninophile can be very simply love for the dogs. Love for the dogs. We will see the next set of words now. Dendrophile. Now what is this dendro? So whenever if you come across a word called as dendro, the literal meaning can be trees over here. Phile can be altogether love. So the love for the trees. Okay, love for trees. For example, I said dendrology. Now what is this dendrology? Dendrology means study of trees. That can be literally dendrology. Next we have philomath. We all know that philo is altogether love and math is to learn. To learn or understand. Now, what is this philomath? Means love for learning. So some people will be very much interested in learning new things. So we can say them as philomath. For example, I said polymath. Polymath. Now what is this polymath? Poly means many or multiple, and math is altogether to learn. To learn multiple subjects. If a person has knowledge on multiple subjects, we generally say him as a polymath. We say polyglot. Now what is this polyglot? Poly means many, glot means the tongue or language. If a person can speak many languages, that particular person, we generally say him as a polyglot. Let's look into the next word, ergophile. Now what is this ergo? Generally, you might have heard a word called as ergonomic. Now what is this ergonomic? If a person is really very hardworking, then we say that person as ergonomic person. Ergonomic or ergo means something relating to work, and phile is altogether love. So what is this ergophile? That means a person who loves working. A person who loves to work. Next word, heliophile. Now what is this helio? Helio can be sun. Phile can be love over here. For example, in our school days, we used to have a theory called as heliocentric theory. Now what is this heliocentric theory? So helio means sun, centric means center. That means for this entire universe, sun is in the center. That is the heliocentric theory. At the same time, we learned one more theory called as geocentric theory. Now what is this geocentric theory? Geo means earth over here, and altogether centric means in the center. So that means earth is in the center of universe. That can be geocentric theory over there. So helio, we need to remember it as sun. For example, I said seleno. Seleno is altogether moon. Geo is altogether earth over there. Next we have limnophile. Now what is this limno? Whenever if you come across a word called as limno, the literal meaning would be lake. Phile can be altogether love over here. Now what is this limnophile? So limnophile can be love for the lakes. Now heliophile can be love for the sun. It can be the heliophile. Next, limnophile can be love for the lakes. For example, I said limnology. Now what is this limnology? Limnology can be very simply, it's the study of lakes. Study of lakes over here. Okay, let's see the next set of words. Necrophile. So what is this necro? So necro, literal meaning would be dead. And phile would be altogether love over here. So necrophile is love for the dead. Love for the dead. Generally we have one more word. For example, I said necropolis. Now what is this necropolis? Whenever if you come across a word called as polis, P-O-L-I-S, that means altogether a city. Necro means dead. Now, a dead city. So the literal meaning can be a city where a large cemetery is there. Okay, what is this cemetery? Cemetery can be an area where dead bodies are buried. So what is this necropolis? Necropolis is a city where a large cemetery is present. That means dead bodies are buried in a very large area. That can be necropolis over there. Next we have pyrophile. Now what is this pyro? Pyro can be the fire over here, and phil can be altogether, or phile can be altogether love over here. Love. Now what is this pyrophile? Love for the fire. See the next one. Carcinophile. Carcino. Generally on certain plastic goods or some covers we generally see it's a carcinogenic agents. Now what is this carcino? Carcino means cancer, cancer causing. Now phil is altogether love. So love for cancer. Love for cancer can be altogether carcinophile over there. See the next word. Next we have the word called as philatelist. Now what is this phil? Phil can be altogether love, and a tellist. Tellist can be altogether the stamps. Now, what is this philatelist? Philatelist is actually a hobby where the people start collecting the stamps of different countries in the world, and they keep with them, and that is a great hobby at one point of time. And this can be generally considered as the king of all the hobbies in the world. That's altogether the philatelist. So with this hobby, the students or the people who collect the stamps will gain knowledge. Why so? Because a particular stamp with a particular person's image would be released by a particular country. The image would be a very famous person of that particular country or of the world over there. So that was the reason why philatelist was generally considered as a very great hobby in those days. But these days, nobody are having that interest in this philatelist altogether. Now, nyctophile. Now, what is this nycto? So nycto is darkness. Whenever if you come across the word called as nycto, nycto can be very simply the darkness. Now the phile can be altogether love over here. Now nyctophile can be love for the darkness. Okay, love for darkness. Okay, next we have pedophilia. Now what is this pedo? Pedo can be the children. So generally we see pediatrician. Okay, pediatrician. Now who is this pediatrician? Pediatrician can be a doctor who will be dealing with the health issues of a child. Now at the same time we have the pedo. Pedo is also the child over there. Now file is altogether love. Love for the children. Okay, love for children. So these can be the words pertaining to philia or file over here. If you like this content, please share this video with your friends and comment if you have any doubts over there.